Hey guys, I haven't made a video in quite a while because I've been very busy, and also I don't know if you could hear it in my voice, but I'm very sick. I've had a fever the last couple of days and I've been throwing up nonstop. But I wanted to make this video today because we need to talk about something. And it's something that worries, well, should worry everybody. And that is the 60 or the 59 or 60 cruise missiles that were dropped on Syria and what that actually means. First, it's very disappointing. I'm going to give you two ways to look at this, right? Two analysis, because obviously there's a lot of information we don't have. The first analysis is that this is very disappointing. Donald Trump criticized, or I should say President Trump, well, he wasn't president then, but he criticized Obama about the whole drawing a red line, not going over the red line, and falling, because this was done 5 years ago, right? With the same gas that was used to poison people. But it turned out it wasn't Assad after all. But that didn't stop us from going in there and bombing a few things the way we always do. What's incredibly disturbing about this is that and I'm not happy today. I'm very unhappy. Is that Trump seems to have changed. First, I'm pushing Steve Bannon out of the White House. Man, that is the stupidest thing you could do. Steve Bannon is the reason you have a base, right? I mean, Steve Bannon, okay, I'll put it this way. Ivanka Trump really doesn't have a base. She's nobody. Jared Kushner, whom I really don't like because he's actually a Democrat, he's not a Republican, and he's playing a key role in the Trump administration. He should not be there. He's inexperienced. I know that Trump trusts him, but in my opinion, this is a mistake. He doesn't have a base either. Nobody knows who he is. I'm sure they're trying to groom him to be president someday. That boy's never going to be president. Steve Bannon has a huge following. If Steve Bannon is pushed out of the White House permanently, Trump's not going to win re-election. No. In fact, what's very scary is the Democrats will probably win re-election. So, Trump, I know you're never going to watch this, but if anybody, for any reason, watches this, tell him or tell somebody that knows him, don't fire Steve Bannon. You fire Steve Bannon, you might as well fire yourself. Now, that's one way to look at it, is that he's listening to Lindsey Graham, he's listening to John McCain, he's listening to these neocons who are in bed with the deep state or global governance. This is extremely dangerous because it brings us very close to the edge of World War III. Now, Trump ran on a promise that he would not, or he would stop the invasion of other countries. But that doesn't appear to be the case. I'm not a Trump apologist, right? I voted for him and I believed in him. And up until now, everything he's done, I've been very happy with. Except for this. This I cannot support. With that said, there is another way to look at this. And this was my analysis about half an hour after I started reading what had happened. What had happened. I hate it when people do that. What happened? Anyway, so here's the thing. Let's look at some details. First, sarin gas. Chlorine gas. Well, which is it? Was it sarin gas? Was it chlorine gas? Oh, we need an investigation. Well, what the hell are we doing bombing if we don't have an investigation? Do the investigation first and then bomb people. I mean, if you have to bomb them, don't just do the investigation and bomb anyway. But here's the thing, right? If it's sarin gas, like they're saying, me being a doctor and having a bachelor's degree in chemistry, I raised my hand. I called on myself because I was the only person in the room. But I raised my hand and I said, excuse me, I have a question. Doesn't that transmit through the skin? Isn't that deadly? If it's sarin gas, pray tell, are the people that are helping them not wearing any protection? None? Really? Why aren't they dying and convulsing on the floor? Because you clearly see them touching. Oh, don't bullshit me, man. This thing's highly deadly. So Can't be sarin gas. But it can't be chlorine gas either. Because Assad supposedly gave all his, in a deal that was made 5-6 years ago, I can't remember. He made a deal with the Russians and the United Nations that he would hand all his chemical weapons over to the Russians. So he doesn't have access to them. And of course, we have to trust the Russians, which Democrats are not very quick to do. But here's the other thing. Trump called, or not Trump, but the administration informed the Russians that they were going to attack. And where did they attack? They attacked an airfield and fuel depot. And that fuel depot was controlled by the Russians, not the Assad regime. And the Russians gave the green light. Pray tell, you know what this reminds me? Kennedy, John Kennedy, well, and his brother, right? RFK. So during the Cuban Missile Crisis, they both wanted a desperate out. So what did they do? What did they do? They said, we'll pull our missiles out of Turkey in a couple of months, not immediately. We've got to save face. If you pull your missiles off of Cuba. I'm sure Khrushchev and Kennedy got shit from both sides over this. But it was the right thing to do at that time. Now, I don't think that the same thing occurred here, but I think something similar may have occurred in that, isn't this a coincidence? Just a coincidence that the chairman of China, whom Trump has said is the real enemy, is right now in his Mar-a-Lago estate waiting to meet with him? And he just bombs the crap out of Syria? Right when he has said that something has to be done about North Korea. And by the way, the Philippines are taking are being more aggressive in the islands in the South China Sea. So they're challenging China because they know the U.S. has their back. That's my analysis. I think that this occurred. First, I think there was no chemical attack, right? I think that was a staged event, particularly because a lot of people have blunt force trauma. And if it was a chemical attack, doesn't really cause blunt force trauma. Okay, fine, multiple missiles hit or multiple bombs or whatever. The airplane threw bomb. Well, okay, fine. But I don't know. I don't buy it. I'm just not buying it. It feels like a false flag. It smells like a false flag. It looks like a false flag. So, and on top of that, the Syrian gas that was supposed to be used, Turkey said that they verified it. But that stuff usually comes through Turkey, much like all of the ISIS fighters that are armed because Erdogan, whatever his name is, I just call him the Turkish asshole. He, aside from declaring war on the EU, he actually, his government is Muslim Brotherhood. So, what do I think is going on? This is either the stupidest thing Trump has ever done, or a fucking stroke of genius. I'm going to let you decide which is which. Right now, I'm very disappointed. I think that there may have been other ways of doing this, but this may be, I don't know. This does remind me of a short story. I'll tell you this and then I'll end this video. This reminds me of a story. Sorry, I'm still sick. This reminds me of a story that I heard about World War II. Now, I've studied World War II intensely, and I do believe that the Germans used nuclear weapons against the Russians towards the end of World War II. And then later through, not Operation Paperclip, what was the name of that U-boat? I can't remember. It was U-boat 2 something or whatever. It was like 3 digits. So that U-boat then went off with a nuclear weaponry, but it also went off with the Nazi Bell Project. If you don't know what the Nazi Bell Project is, go look at what the Nazi Bell Project is. And while you're at it, look at Foo Fighters. Fascinating. But anyway, so during World War II, or actually at the end of World War II, when we were going to go into, when we were doing the island hopping in the Pacific to invade Japan, now we knew that we were going to end up going against the Soviet Union, and George Patton, General Patton, one of my favorite generals, by the way, He actually said to Eisenhower, we should go in and take care of the Soviet Union right now while we have the troops. They're weak. We could take them. We should take them. And he was, because Eisenhower was kind of a fanboy of Stalin, he said no. Now, Patton got the German, I forgot which German division, but he conquered a German division, let them stay as a German division, and him and the Third Army were going to march in to Russia and take Russia. And of course, he just happened to die that same week. So it was like an assassination. Why do I mention this? Because at the end of World War, which, by the way, the bombs that we dropped in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, I do not believe those were our bombs. Those bombs, we didn't have enough time to create enough fusionable material. We did a few years later, but we didn't have enough time by then. The Germans, however, had enough time, and it wasn't at Peenemünde that they did it. Peenemünde was a distraction that actually occurred somewhere in France, in the south of France. The name escapes me right now. I'm so sorry. I'm sick that I'm forgetting names and dates. But at the end of World War II, it is believed that things were going really south of the Soviet Union very fast. And it was told to the Soviet Union, watch what's going to happen. And the bombs in Nagasaki and Hiroshima were dropped. It is rumored that the Japanese were already in negotiations for surrender, right? Because they had been beaten out of China, beaten out of Korea. They had been beaten out of the islands leading the islands of the Pacific, and they really only had their home. And if you look at Japan, Japan is not very big. At least the living space in Japan is not very big. And so it is believed that those bombs were dropped not to stop the war, but to send a message to the Soviet Union and a message to the rest of the world. We're the top dog now. So we have a history of doing this. I have a huge history of doing this. Gulf of Tonkin comes to mind. Oh my God, the name. My brain today is just flat out wrong. I think sickness burned a few brain cells. In the Havana Harbor, the ship that was sunk, not the Lusitania, even though the Lusitania is another example, but whatever the name of that ship was sunk that started the Spanish-American War, it was in the Havana Harbor. Man, I'm gonna go look that up later. That's gonna bother the crap out of me, but you can look that up. That was a false flag. We did that. So we have a huge history of false flag. There are weapons of mass. 16 intelligence agencies have all said that there are weapons of mass destruction. Colin Powell said to the United Nations, and this is why we have to go into Iraq. Yes, we have to go into Iraq because they have weapons of mass destruction. They're not there. My bad, but we're already here. What are you going to do, right? Just like 17 intelligence agencies said that Donald Trump has connections with the Russians. 16 of those intelligence agencies were the same ones that lied to us before. And the time before that, and the time before that. And the only one that didn't lie to us before is because it didn't exist before. But they exist now, so they can lie to us. So there are too many factors that we don't know about. I'm just going to leave it at that. You decide. You decide what you want to believe. But I'm going to keep an open mind for now, and I'm going to hope that the second option is the one that's true, because if the first option is true, God help us all. Anyway, might be a good time to store some food and water and get your bug out bag ready. So this is Dr. Velez for www.dsunion.org, and thank you. And hopefully when I'm feeling a little bit better, I'll be making more videos with in-depth analysis on what's happening in Syria, and more importantly, what's happening in the Korean Peninsula. Remember, I live here in China, so I kind of have a different perspective than Americans. I don't get my news from the Criminal News Network or even the fake conservative Fox News, right? I actually go outside and look at what's happening. So I'll be making videos about that much later on. Thank you very much. And please comment below, what do you think is happening? Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you have something else that I didn't think of? And if you have any other websites, be it conservative or liberal, that say something completely different, please link it below. And I mean this honestly. I will go read it and I will go check it out, because this is too serious to ignore any information, even if it comes from Salon. Okay, don't link anything from Salon. All right, anywhere else is fine. All right, thank you. I'll see you guys later.